Hi, and welcome back to the P.O.W.E.R podcast, property, ownership, wealth, and everything related, where we dive into strategies, stories, and people shaping Australia's financial landscape, but also shaping Australia's future. I'm your host, Melissa Ashcroft, and today's episode is truly special. I sit down with the founder of AAA, the man whose vision, grit, and belief in doing certain things differently shaped the foundation of the business we continue to grow today. I'm very pleased to reintroduce everybody, in fact, because you've already done a podcast with us some time ago now, but not a filmed podcast.
Right.
To John Macalyk, AAA's founder and managing director from 1998 till this year.
88.
1988. Oh, I correct myself. 1988. I was in kindergarten. And, welcome back, John.
Thank you.
I'm sure
good to be back.
There's a lot of attentive ears that are ready to listen to you. You're so well known in this industry. Just anybody saying AAA or John and Macalyk, and they go, "Oh, I've known John since 1988, or I've known him all these years. Great guy. You've got such a good, strong reputation." So thanks for that.
Good.
And let's start back at the beginning. What inspired you to start AAA in 1988, and perhaps tell us a bit about your career journey up until then?
Well, that's a good question, because I actually started a bit before 1988. I incorporated in 1988, so I was going for 3 or 4 years before that. But what started me going? That's a good question. You know, we all make decisions in life, and I was the state manager in Phillip Street in Sydney for AGC-Westpac when my eldest son was born with a medical problem, and I had to spend a lot of time in hospital. Well, one day my company car went through an inspection, and they said, "Oh, it's dirty, you've got to keep it clean." Well, I had to go at them because they knew I had to spend a lot of time in hospital, but that didn't matter. So I had the shits, and I quit on the spot.
Right.
And I thought, what will I do? I'll become a mortgage broker.
Wow.
That's how it started. But the decision to become one was an interesting
one. And you had worked in asset finance, so you were across how finance obviously worked, and was a state manager in those days, in those early 80s, could we say?
Yes.
Because I know what year your son was born, 1984. So, okay, early 80s, which is, most businesses in our industry, it's rare to find one over a decade. So we're talking about, this is 37, 38 years plus the 4 before. So you've been doing this for 4 decades. So I hope our listeners, I'm sure, really do understand and can appreciate the opportunity to listen to somebody that's been and seen it all, really, seen everything in Australia's landscape. And so you originally started in asset, but then your main source of finance that you procured was not home loans; it was commercial finance. So what drove you to that decision?
Well, when I went out on my own, I found that the major banks didn't really like to do commercial loans. They were happy to do residential loans, which I wasn't very good at or didn't know much about. Although I did have a home back then. Even though my wife said for the first 2 years I was a broker, we lived on baked beans. But I don't think that's right. But so I started working in commercial loans, and business loans weren't really popular back then. It was people had commercial property, and that's what I went after.
Right.
And I quickly realised that getting a list of commercial property owners was a good way to get more business, and I did that. I started getting databases, and I'd send them out letters, and I'd say, "I don't know what you're paying now, but look, I can do better."
Yeah.
And I got to a stage where I sent out 100,000 letters a year.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of business.
You did. I remember assisting put the paper in the envelopes quite a few times back at home.
A long time.
So that print mail out was to a mass number was really what got you fully into the commercial property lending space in Australia.
Yes.
Now, I just want to section back a little bit, given what we know about our industry body now, the MFAA, and you were at the first, when it was then called MIAA meeting. Can you tell me a bit about that meeting and who was there?
Yes. I got to know every commercial lender in Australia, and
You still know them.
I still know them, but not there was one particular one, Perpetual Trustees, in up the road there in Bathurst, up there somewhere. And Phil Preston was a manager, and had done a few loans with him over the years. And he said he rang me up, so he was actually the instigator. I wonder what's happened to Phil. He rang up and said, "John, we need to have an industry for commercial brokers." I said, "Sure, I'll come along." Anyway, I turned up with 20 other people, and 18 of them were bankers, and there were 2 brokers, and I was one of the brokers. Anyway, we spent hours working out an Articles of Association, and that it would cost $50 to become a member. And we called ourselves initially the Mortgage Bankers Association of Australia.
Oh, MBAA.
Yes. So everyone went away. But what happened? I think the meeting was on a Thursday. But on the Sunday, I don't know what happened, but all the papers found out, and they said, "Oh, those guys think they're bankers," and they really poured shit all over us.
Yeah.
So we had a big meeting. We decided to change the name to MIAA.
Right.
And then eventually became MFAA.
Yeah.
But there you go, Mortgage Bankers Association. I've still got the certificate.
Really?
Yes.
Where is that? I'd like to see that.
Somewhere.
Because the MFAA have a new office now, and when I toured it a couple of weeks ago, I did see the certificate of certification, and it said MIAA, but I didn't know it was MBAA first.
Well, maybe
You
it didn't
really
really
are
get off the
an
ground.
industry legend.
Didn't really get off the ground because that's what we decided.
So there were 2 brokers, 18 bankers, let's just say.
Yep.
And you created the association.
Yes.
By Phil Preston saying we need to do this.
Yes.
And you were mainly commercial. So were the bankers were mainly resi or how?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but there were people like Phil Preston and Colonial First State and a few others that were commercial.
Why did they think they needed an association?
Why did Phil? I'm not sure.
We need Phil Preston. We are going to find you. Yes. We are reaching out to you because I'm a firm believer in corporate memory, and I'm a firm believer that it's not documented well enough. Like I would like to see the timeline, of a lot of different companies. You see them for, health insurance companies where they go, we were here 200 years ago and now we're here, but we need to do it A, for our business. And secondly, I think our industry needs to see from that day, on that Thursday, we should be having documentation on the Saturday where the papers got wind of it. There needs to be something like that because this industry is going to be around a long time. We're now nearly at 80% of all loans in Australia introduced by brokers.
But still only 30% for commercial.
Only 30% for commercial. So do you know what the percentages were maybe a decade ago, 2 decades ago?
When I first started and the MFAA brought out some figures, it was 3% for commercial.
Of all loans?
That's right. That was for, let's say, 35 years ago.
Yeah, right. Well, it got a little bit away. And so I'm sure you're pleased that there is a commercial broker on the MFAA board now.
Very pleased.
That being myself. So it's interesting because the current chairperson, Kerry Berman, did say to me there's no one in commercial on the board. And so from it effectively finding out now that it started with 2 commercial brokers and 18 bankers, how the history has got to these 3 decades later where it's now completely underrepresented when you were the ones that started it in the first place.
And the only way it can get higher is for brokers to be educated in how to submit a commercial application.
I agree.
Because that's what happened. The banks promoted their commercial product and 9 times out of 10, they couldn't even accept the application. It wasn't done correctly. I was one of the few that had a bit of experience, and they took my applications. Although Kim Abercrombie, the manager at Colonial First State at the time, he sort of got frustrated when I sent him a really nice application with staples in the paper, and they're all itemised and everything. And he said, "John, we just have to do a credit report for the head office." So he gave me his credit report. So he said, "You fill in this credit report, don't put any staples, and we'll go from there." So that's when we started doing hundreds of millions of dollars a year with Colonial First State.
Yeah.
Because he was promoting, he helped.
Yeah.
The banks didn't help. They didn't say, "Oh, well, we'll come and teach you how to do it." They just said, "Get stuff, we don't want to deal with you."
So he educated you on an institutional funds process.
Yes.
And I remember back in early 2000s even when the fax would come through with the trail book for Colonial First State, and it was hundreds of millions of dollars. The good old days, Johnny.
Good old days.
And we'd go through it with a ruler and line which, broker or introducer had done it.
Yes.
And then the GFC happened.
Well.
And what happened then? It all went to shit.
It did, because some people ask me how do you why are you still in the industry? How did you survive?
Yeah.
Well, in 1991, there were 2 years I lost money, but all the other years I made money. But if you didn't have deep pockets, you may not have survived that 1991, the recession we had to have, Mr. Keating.
That was the recession,
yes, and when rates
GFC.
went through the roof.
Yep.
But I kept going, and that's persistence, because I knew it would turn the corner.
Yeah.
I've never had an overdraft, but my credit cards took a beating for a couple of years, but it's all back to normal now.
Well, that's good. And, we've seen the recession we had to have, we've seen the GFC, we've seen COVID, we've seen the Royal Commission, where the whole industry's had upheaval, especially in the residential market, and a lot of regulation.
But that was good. A lot of brokers didn't like it because they put a lot of pressure on them, and the Commission sort of keyed in brokers into lenders a bit, saying, you've got to be responsible, and the lender can't be, if something goes wrong, it's not all the lender's fault, it could be your fault too. And so it did help. I mean, I remember in those days we used to do commercial loans or business loans based on a person's residence, even if it was in the mother's name or the father's name. And 2 or 3 times out of 20, that family would lose their house.
Yeah.
And then, which wasn't fair. No. And I've always, one of the reasons I have got a good reputation, I always believed in getting the best result for the client.
Yes, exactly.
And that's kept me going.
That's what kept you going.
Yes.
Yeah. And sometimes the best results not the easiest result, and that's where BID or best interest duty comes in, where now you actually must perform in the best interest. It's not an option.
That's right.
The loan cannot be deemed unsuitable for the client. And it does apply to commercial as well. You still have to provide what the director's A&L looks like. You still have to in some cases, but our recent deal that we're working on in industrial space, we're doing a lease stock loan, which is, basically banks will lend on the lease itself and that only. They don't need to look at anything else. They need to know what's there, but they don't actually need to effectively have 2 years financials and ATO portals and everything like that if it's in an SPV.
That's true. And we didn't have that back then.
Didn't have it back then.
No.
Well, there's so many products as well, and there's so many lenders. So if there's 80 lenders in Australia and thousands of products, and I've seen over the years you've had you used to print out the pamphlets from the lenders, and then you've had it in systems, and you've had it in that program that you created. How do you keep across all the policies and all the changes and things like that?
Well, I'm old world. I have paper files, so I had a lot of files. I know when the GFC came and you said we can't send out letters in the post anymore because the postage stamps when I started were 3 or 4 cents each.
Yeah,
and
it was really expensive.
Then they went to $1.20 each, and I thought, wait a minute, $100,000 was too much.
I know. We did the math, and we were like, that's a lot of money to spend.
So you told me to go through all my files, which took me 3 years.
Yeah.
And get all the clients' names and email addresses.
Yes.
And their accountants and solicitors. And
accountants, solicitors, financial planners.
And we end up with 80,000 names.
That's right. And we email them once a month.
Yep.
And we've done over 170 blog posts. I'll get our marketing gurus, Gem Socials, to confirm that. But we've stayed active and communicative. I've followed your lead. That's why back in the day, John used to do videos to camera and send them. But now we've just got a podcast in our office.
I know.
So we can just do this whenever we want.
In fact, where I used to go was called Finance News in Pitt Street.
That's right. And are they still there?
I think they are. I think they are. It cost $1,000 for a session then.
Yeah.
To do one.
That's a lot.
One 60-second ad.
Yeah, and you don't know what your return is.
Well,
the TV ones did all right.
You got to advertise. To make money, you have to advertise.
I know.
I remember reading about Coca-Cola many years ago, and Coca-Cola is like many big corporates, but Coca-Cola is special. They have a rule that they spend 10% of their income on advertising, no matter what happens. And
Is that true?
That's true, 10%. So if they turn over 100 million,
Jeez.
they're going to spend
Yeah.
$10 million on advertising, which is, a lot of people say, oh, well,
That's
it's
an
not working.
interesting rule.
But, you know, if you can spend a lot of time trying to work out, and you do work out if it's working or not.
Yeah.
But overall, you've got to spend money. To make money, you've got to spend money.
Yeah. Look, I don't know. Maybe we go back to the print. Emails are free and cheap, but we're also flooded with emails these days. Like, you wake up and there's 50 emails there, so they don't have the same cut through. Maybe.
No, I'm working on a new
Here we go.
data processing situation.
Okay.
But I have to talk to the privacy committee, but that's another story.
We'll get the regulator onto you.
That's right.
But you're always forward-looking. One of your mantras is always have something to look forward to. And you've given me a lot of advice over the years, whether it be verbal or non-verbal. Take of that what you will. But what advice would you give brokers or business owners that are trying to build something that lasts?
Well, the first thing is, and I'm not sure how many files everyone has on their desk, but when I started, I think I had about 4 or 5 files, and I was wondering, geez, it's taken a long time for this loan to settle because, you know, valuations and this. And so I quickly realised, I figure 20 files, you have to be working on 20 files to be successful. Now, whatever that means, making money or, yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
So you might settle 5, but you need another 5 coming in.
Yep. Well, in that 20 files that you're working on, there's some coming in, some valuations are being done, some settlements, some drop out because of whatever, valuations coming low. And so you've got to have a big number you're working on. You can't survive on five files on your desk.
No.
Unless
I'm going to reduce to 20.
Unless they're 100 million. You must have a lot more than that.
I've probably got like 30.
But then, you know, the bottom
much.
line is, and I'm still married after 45 years, you have to get a balance in your life-work relationship.
Yeah, how do you do balance?
I worked out 6 months after I was married that my wife was smarter than I was. So she did help me in the business by looking after the children and just looking after me.
Yeah, so your balance was your partner in life.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think I just want to go back to that 20 file thing. Like, I don't want to go too heavily on it, but I do think it is that right kind of thinking. It's as much as you can handle without being too much, so that, you know, I think you've said to me many times, like, the work's still going to be there tomorrow. There's no point working every day till 9 o'clock at night if you're going to fry out by doing that too much. So
that's right.
If you have 30 files, you're like me right now, which is completely fried because it's the end of the year for us while we're filming this.
But what do they say on an aeroplane when they're doing the safety?
Put the mask on yourself.
Put the mask on yourself before you can help someone else.
They do. It's such good advice, but how many people take it on actually, do you think?
It's an individual decision. We make a lot of decisions in our lifetime.
Yes.
And that's one of them.
Phrases. But look, let me ask you a few quick fire questions to finish us off. It's part of what we do in our P.O.W.E.R podcast. And I'm going to make them up today because I didn't want to share them with you. I share them with everybody else so they pretend that they don't know that what I'm going to ask. So what you just have to do is say the first thing that comes to the top of your mind. Okay. Tea or coffee? Tea, not quick enough.
No.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Wine or beer?
Wine.
Red wine or white wine?
What? Red.
Commercial or resi?
Commercial.
Lending or broking?
Lending. Both.
Okay. Dale or Monique?
Both.
And one more thing.
Yes.
What is a quote? You've said a few mantras, a few quotes. You've said a few, pearls of wisdom, obviously, today, John. But what is one mantra that you live by, or one parting sentence? And it's not your last podcast with us, because I feel like we should do these on the regular. But what's one thing you can leave us with today?
Well, this is at the beginning, and it's a little phrase, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So whatever you do, be responsible, because if someone did the same to you, would you be happy about it?
True. Well said. Well, thank you so much for your time and expertise. And I know our listeners are very appreciative to have an industry legend, stalwart, and someone that isn't
An
it's
avid
just
golfer.
getting started. I mean, yeah, you're going to do this forever, right?
Yes.
That's everyone asks me that too. Is your dad? Oh yeah, he plays golf and he does loans and he spends a lot of time with family. So
That's a good point.
Very good.
Give me 5.
done. Thank you, everybody.